Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for the Schmoedown Rundown. Introducing first, Frankie Stats Janisch. And their co-host, the man of controversy, Mr. Brian the Duke David. And finally, your host, Aaron Turner. Let's get ready to Schmoedown.
What's going on, Movie Trivia Schmoedown fans? It is episode number 31 of the Schmoedown Rundown. My name is Aaron. I am your host as always. Joining me today, he's the stat man of Schmoedown.com. He is Frank Janisch. What's happening, buddy?
Hey, man. How's it going?
Good. Thank you. Thank you for that.
Good. That's all I wanted to know. But, it's good to be here. I just want to get that out of the way. Just want to know how you're doing.
I'm doing great because, as usual, all right, well, I watched The Handmaid's Tale, so that's great. Also here, a guy that shares the same love, sort of, for The Handmaid's Tale that I do is Brian Davids. How's it going, man?
Aaron, it's always a good day when you're not involved in an airport altercation. How about you?
Moving on from that, we have a special guest with us today. He is the creator of the Fan Movie Trivia Schmoedown League. He is Chris Doman. Sir, welcome back to the show.
Hey guys, it's been quite a while since I've been on, and I'm glad to come on and talk about a couple of very interesting matches.
Moving on, Chris, I want to start with you actually first, so let's just get to talking here. You run the Fan Movie Trivia Schmoedown League yourself, among others, of Take 3 Productions. You guys have been growing, man, ever so slightly. You guys keep getting bigger and bigger. Every time I see the page, it's just got more and more people on it. So that's got to be pretty exciting. But a development that happened this week is that one, Brett Sheridan has joined the Fan Movie Trivia Schmoedown League in an attempt, I'm assuming, to play his way up to the actual Schmoedown. I just want to know what it's like, because you've talked to Brett. You guys had a big announcement this week. You guys go check that out on their channel. Tell me what it's like to work with Brett Sheridan. What are your plans for Mr. Wiggly?
Well, first off, when that whole thing happened last Wednesday, I was in bed. I was pretty much asleep, and then I heard my phone just blowing up, and I look at my phone, and I'm just like, wait a minute, Brett Sheridan called out the league. Okay, wait, what? So, yeah, and it was crazy because literally within a day, one of my guys, Frank's favorite person, Matt Kearns, actually was the one who started the conversation of, well, let's get Brett in here, and we set up just sort of meeting him and getting to know what his strengths and his whatnot to get him set up for a match. Then the initial discussion was, who was his first opponent going to be? And we all had some ideas, and obviously a bunch of suggestions, and a bunch of people were throwing their names in the hat. Seriously, I think we got like some 30 plus collective DMs about, hey, can I play Brett Sheridan? Hey, can I play Brett Sheridan? It's like, guys, when the right person comes along, that's who will play Brett. And we did. We found who I'll argue is the right person, and that is arguably his biggest fan, Zach Mitchell. And that match will be happening actually very soon. It will be up by next week. By probably a couple of days after this episode gets released, that match is going to be up, and I'm stoked because not only does he bring a little bit of legitimacy to what we're doing, but it also brings with it a sense of, for me, a feeling of accomplishment.
Sure.
It's both great and terrifying simultaneously.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. It's crazy how it's grown from the very beginning, because I remember watching the first couple of matches, and it's a fun time. And then Frank and I got involved, and Frank and I played each other. You can check that out on the page. It's quite humorous. But
yeah.
But I mean, how much work goes into that? Like how much time do you guys spend putting this together and like editing? Like, what's the process? What's the turnaround time?
Oh, geez. So the question writing can take anywhere from a couple hours to maybe even a full day. So it starts obviously with our question writer, or actually it officially starts with our scheduler, Jacob London. He does a lot of great stuff, not just for the league, but for the channel as well. And then it goes to our question writer, Case Cornelesa, who is usually the co-host along with myself. Then once we get the scheduling with the competitor, we try to get it within a reasonable amount of time, a couple of days notice when we start messaging people. Then we record the match, and I do the ladies and gentlemen, the fun stuff. Then after the match is done, I will do a rough cut, which I then send to now one of my two editors, because with the tournament coming up, we had to put on a second editor, because if we're going to keep up with the demand, we have to be able to meet that demand. So anywhere from the match is usually up within 3 to 5 days of the initial recording. Depends on editing and all the other fun stuff.
Where is Case from?
He is from Holland.
So let's see here. In Holland, that would make them what? What is their...
Dutch.
Yeah, Dutch.
So let's call him Dutch Skaliski from now on. That's his new name, Dutch Skaliski.
I'll be happy to let him know.
I was hoping he was Swedish, so you could just say the Swedish Skaliski, but he's not Swedish.
I do have a question, though.
Okay.
Because the Schmoedown community is worldwide, how difficult can it be scheduling people from different countries, time zones, all that? I mean, does it kind of exclude some people from ever participating, or do you try your hardest to accommodate?
We go out of our way to make sure we can accommodate something. For example, so last weekend we actually record, a little behind the scenes here. We did record our second title match between our current champ, Jonah Stowell, who lives in England, and the challenger, Jacob London, who lives in Australia. So you have those two guys who are literally on opposite sides of the world. Then you have myself living here in Minnesota. I think if I'm not mistaken, it was like 7 or 8 o'clock in the morning for me. Then it was about 3 o'clock in the afternoon for Jono, and then it was almost midnight for Jacob. It's crazy, but we will always do our damnedest to accommodate for whomever is competing, because obviously we will, we want to make this happen for the most amount of people possible. So
it's quite the undertaking.
And how many London has fallen jokes have taken place so far?
That's the first one.
What?
That is literally the first one. Well,
thanks, pal. All right, let's move on. Let's get into the news this week. Not a whole lot of stuff going on. I want to first talk about our friend of the show, our good buddy, Ken Knapsack, his new show, Inside Schmoedown, which debuted on the Collider Facebook page this week. In this episode, the first one, we found out that Mark Ellis will be returning to singles, and he will be taking on Clark Wolf when he returns. Sounds like a great match to me. Frank Janisch, what do you think, man?
Yeah, I was excited to hear his return, and I was even more excited to hear he was going to be playing Clark Wolf. That's a pretty big matchup to have, and I do believe it's taking place that week before Collision, so it's a good primer for everything that's going to happen at Collision. So I'm looking forward to it, and it's about time Ellis got back in the ring.
I love that word, primer. I love it so much. Brian, what do you think about this matchup?
Yeah, it's an attractive match, and look, if there was ever a time for Clark to pull off the upset, it is right now, as Ellis, may not be at the top of his game. There might be a little bit of rust, and, Ellis will probably dispute that, but I want to see Clark get a big singles victory, with someone besides JTE. She's had such bad luck in the past, and I hope this is her time to really make a splash and advance up the rankings.
Hungry like the wolf, you could say. Chris, what do you think of this matchup?
I'll be rooting for Clark all the way, but unless she gets a solid strength in round 2, I almost feel like it's Ellis's to lose. Because even though he had a rough go in the free-for-all, the dude still has just a ton of knowledge. It's hard for me to see that he will not outperform Clark. That's just the only way that I'm seeing at the moment. Even though I could see it coming within a 2 to 3 point difference in round 3, but if you ask me to call right now who wins, I'm saying Ellis.
Let me just say this: the key for Clark is always to keep a level head. If she takes herself out of the match by getting frustrated over something not going her way, she tends to lose. So as long as she keeps kind of an even keel, that's when she's the most dangerous. So don't let anything get to her. That is always the key for Clark.
Oh, and I completely agree, and that's a very fair point, Brian. It's just a matter of will she, and I think she will. But it's
You got to
just a
think.
matter of
You got to think coming into this, she is going to be a little bit more loose because look at the last match that she had against Riley, which had title implications, going against her own teammate and good friend. So I feel like with less stakes on the line, I feel like she's going to come in a little bit more loose. So as I will say this, I will quote a podcaster by saying, I'm not a journalist, I'm a fan. So I want Clark Wolf to win this match. No offense to Mark Ellis. Let's jump into the team recap this week. It is Team IGN, Jim Vejvoda and Eric Goldman versus Team Rotten Tomatoes, Gray Drake and Matt Atchity. Brian, take us through round 1.
Let me just say, this is one of the most highly anticipated team matches for me in quite some time. And it didn't really get the hype I felt it deserved. I mean, these are two fantastic teams, even though IGN's only played once. Rotten Tomatoes have been a longtime favorite of mine. And they always seem to be in good matches. They've been in 2 instant classics as far as I'm concerned, but they're always involved in some great moments. But moving to round 1, question 1, Kit Harington, How to Train Your Dragon. Rotten Tomatoes took the early lead, 1-0. Airplane, the food that they ate to get sick. Fish, Rotten Tomatoes went up 3-2. Everybody got Nightcrawler on question 3. And then Mary Elizabeth Winstead, or Nikki Swango, as Aaron likes to say. She was in the Thang remake, which tied everything up 6-6. And some people don't realize this, but Chris Pratt had a small part in Wanted. That tied things up 7-7. Question 6, Tim Curry in The Three Musketeers. Tied things up again, 8-8. Question 7, Ryan Johnson. Who did he have as the female lead in Looper? Emily Blunt, of course. He was really the one that kind of got her career going at this current trajectory. Of course, Denis Villeneuve cast her after that, but Ryan Johnson, once again, knows how to pick him. Rotten Tomatoes went up 10-9. To close out round 1, Hell or High Water, 12-10, Rotten Tomatoes. Matt Atchity had a perfect round. So we've seen 2 perfect rounds, round 1s, of course, in the last couple weeks. I think Beast had the other one. And it looks like they forgot to ask the bonus question, and they had to come back to it because Gray and Matt were both sitting in different seats compared to where they were sitting in round 1. They both had different sunglasses on. And of course, Atchity got the bonus question as well for 1 point, Stand By Me. So 13-10, Rotten Tomatoes heading into round 2. Frank, give me your reactions as well as statistics for round 1.
I was actually kind of surprised that I didn't realize Matt Atchity had answered all 7 correctly because you rarely see that. And then, they give him the bonus question. He gets the bonus question right. So that was fun to watch because he was the first person to get the bonus question correct.
That's right.
So he went, so he got the 8 points for his side of the team for a total of 13, like you said. Jim Vejvoda, he once again got 7 out of 8. And if you go back to his last match against Nerdist, he did the same thing, literally almost exactly the same thing. The first question, he got that one wrong against Nerdist in the animated category. And it happened here with the first question in animated. He got that wrong and proceeded to get the next 7 right. So it was fun to see Vejvoda and Atchity go back and forth, or really just actually stay neck and neck, rather. It was a very exciting first round between a veteran team and a new team to watch.
Vejvoda's vendetta was strong. Let's go with Doman. What was your reaction to round 1?
I'm just sad that hardly anybody got the animated question right. I mean, come on, people. Animation's a real
Are you an animated defender, Chris?
I am very much so, but that's beside the point. No.
What year were you born?
93.
That makes sense. Okay.
This was actually a really, really, really tight opening round. And I'll be honest. I thought for sure that the IGN we were gonna get was the one that really just knocked the living crap out of Nerdist. And granted, yes, Jim came to play, only missed one. Eric, he missed 5 of them. He only scored 10 in round 1. And so it's like I was expecting Eric to play a little bit more of a crutch, but to be fair, it was still a pretty solid, working between them. But the wild card in this whole entire match was Gray, because history has shown that she either does fantastic in round 1 or she can almost utterly crap the bed. And here she mostly did well, minus getting a few what I thought were kind of obvious wrong. It was a solid opening round for both teams, I'd say.
Aaron Turner, does Eric Goldman make Vejvoda vulnerable?
That is the question the biggest question I had coming out of this match was, is Eric Goldman hurting this team? And in round 1, I think he definitely was. And it just seems like even Jim, you can kind of tell, was getting annoyed. He's like, come on, man. Like, at one point, he just kind of had the look in his eye like, dude, bring it together. But I do want to shout out Gray, who I've been critical of in the past due to the art that they draw on the whiteboards. And I know people don't care about that as much as I do. I can't stand that. I'm like Ellis on that. I can't just write the damn answer.
Agreed.
So I appreciate her this time doing that. They kind of got right to the point and wrote down the answer. So I appreciate that. Matt Atchity continues to show that he's one of the best players in the league, regardless of teams or singles, which we'll talk about later. But yeah, I mean, I'm not surprised that it went this way and it was a high scoring round and it was tight this way. It kind of set the tone for how good this match was going to be going forward.
Atchity's new physique has cleared out some cobwebs in the brain, and his trivia game has never been better. But moving to round 2, Rotten Tomatoes spun mixed bag. They spun again, and they got opponent's choice. Frank, what did you think of IGN's decision to give them biopics?
I didn't really know what to make of it. I didn't know what they were basing it on. I assume now that after listening to that post-match interview that Jim Vejvoda felt very strongly in biopics, and so I guess they decided to go with giving them a category that one of them was strong in, so that if they did get the steal opportunity, they could have a good shot at getting the points, which turned out to be the case for 3 of the questions. So I think they had a strategy going in, they executed it, and it worked to their favor in that round.
For those wondering, there was no movie release dates on the wheel, so that's why they went with something unusual. But question 1, Moneyball streak, the final team in that streak, stolen by IGN. It was the Royals. 13-11 Rotten Tomatoes. Question 2, Courtney Love and the People versus Larry Flint. Rotten Tomatoes got it. They went up 15-11. Question 3, Liam Neeson in 1996's Michael Collins. Once again, stolen by IGN. Rotten Tomatoes lead is now 15-13. Question 4, who played Ray's wife? Kerry Washington. Jamie Foxx's film Ray was multiple choice. Rotten Tomatoes goes up 16-13. Question 5, who played Frida's husband? Alfred Molina. Again, Atchity, huge answer. Rotten Tomatoes goes up 18-13. And then question 6, Shattered Glass. What was the media outlet? Multiple choice, once again stolen by IGN, as Rotten Tomatoes lead was now cut to 18-14. Frank, is this the most stealing we've seen in a team match to date?
Actually, getting 3 steals in a match is fairly common. It's happened 11 times in the team league. 2 teams have actually done it twice. IGN has done it now in back-to-back matches. They did it against Nerdist, and they did it here in this match. And the other team is Wolves of Steel. They did it against ETC, and they did it against, I can't even read my writing here on my notes. And they did it against somebody else. I can't read my notes right now. But,
that's awesome.
Yeah, they did it twice. I thought I could make it out, but I can't.
I think it was actually 6 degrees. I think it was
yes, you're right. It is 6 degrees. This is what those little squiggles mean.
Mm-hmm. Somebody's getting fired. All right.
Well, regardless, biopics was a rough round for Rotten Tomatoes considering the steals. They only came out with 5 points. Now, Doman, let me get your thought on Rotten Tomatoes round 2 spin and their overall performance.
Yikes, 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 yikes. A team that I actually, initially I was rooting against because officially speaking, I did pick IGN to win the match, but I obviously, I didn't want Rotten Tomatoes to lose, but I just thought that this whole time, it's like, okay, this is the IGN that, really struck hard against Nerdist, and here they come, here they come, here they come. And they were in a favorable position to really run away with it, but the rest of the match might have had some other plans. Let's just go with that.
I gotta applaud the team of Rotten Tomatoes in round 2 because they easily could have just taken wild guesses, then put themselves in a hole and allowed IGN to take the lead on them or creep back up. But they played what I would like to call small ball in the Schmoedown, and if they didn't know an answer, they went to multiple choice, and they played it that way. They played a good team round, and Matt Atchity once again showing the knowledge. Doesn't surprise me that it was close once again.
Well, IGN, they're down 4. They spin coming of age, and surprisingly, they keep coming of age. That surprised myself as well as a lot of people, I'm sure. Question 1, the graduate, the advice given, multiple choice. They got the point, 18-15, 3-point lead for Rotten Tomatoes. Question 2, Patrick Fugit, an Almost Famous. Rotten Tomatoes lead is now cut to 1, 18-17. Question 3, what film starred Jeff Daniels, Laura Linney, The Squid and the Whale? 19-18, IGN takes the lead. Question 4, James Ponsel, The Spectacular Now, multiple choice. So IGN went up 20-18. Question 5, who played Chris Chambers in Stand By Me? River Phoenix. Skaliski is asking a lot of River Phoenix questions lately, it seems. IGN took a 22-18 lead. And to close out round 2, we had one of the most controversial answers to a question ever, as what was Ferris Bueller's key to making parents, I guess, think that you are sick?
The key to faking out the parents is the clammy hands. It's a good non-specific symptom. I'm a big believer in it.
Of course, the answer was clammy hands, per the film itself, per the answer that the judges or the announcers were looking for. IGN obviously gave the answer of sweaty hands. That was reviewed by Judge Riley and rejected by Judge Riley in favor of clammy hands. So I've got a lot to say about this, but I'm going to start with Frank. Give me your take on the sweaty, clammy hands debacle.
Look, in the movie, it says clammy hands. He says clammy hands. It's on the screen, clammy hands. The answer is clammy hands. I do not see the controversy. I know other people will debate, well, clammy and sweaty, the definitions. Okay, fine. But it's it's movie trivia. What's in the movie, and in the movie, he says clammy hands. And that's the way I see it.
Clammy hands is the correct answer. But the question is, was this the right call? And to that, I would say that it wasn't the right call based on past matches where similar debates have occurred. At Free For All, Beast was granted a point for his nauseous answer when Martin Lawrence's Bad Boys character vomited around dead bodies. Nauseous, meaning affected with nausea, is the inclination or urge to vomit. You can suffer from nausea and not necessarily vomit. Nausea does not guarantee vomit, but the character in the movie definitely vomited around dead bodies. There was no feeling, inclination, or urge. So they have to decide moving forward if they're going to be flexible in these cases, something they've been for the most part, a la James Conway, James Conwell, the Django. Otherwise, if you're going to judge to the letter, then judge to the letter from this point on by declaring this the inception of the Clammy Hands Initiative. Doman, what do you think?
See, okay, it's kind of funny to say that because I'm gonna pull us back a couple weeks to Johns versus Burnett, where there was a question asked of who told Kirk that he has a problem with controlling things, and even though the character Willard Decker gives him a full damn speech basically about that, it's Bones who actually says the line. To be fair, I think that Burnett got screwed on that because he should have been given the point because of similar case here. I actually do think IGN should have been given the right answer because it's pretty much the same thing. Now, granted, yes, and to be fair, I actually am in some agreement with David's that yes, there should be some flexibility allowed if it's like a simile or something like that. But it says it clearly on the screen. Matthew Broderick clearly says it in the movie, Clammy Hands.
The only reason I say flexible is because they've been flexible before. And the question itself didn't really say what did Matthew Broderick say or quote in the film. It just said what was the key. So that's not worded in a way to where it suggests you need to give the exact quoted phrase in the film. So again, it's open to interpretation. Aaron Turner, what is your take on the Clammy Hands debacle?
I'm on Team Stat Lord for this one. I watched Ferris Bueller's Day Off recently, so when that question popped up, I did say to myself Clammy Hands, and then I actually went back and watched the clip. And maybe if it wasn't put on the screen in the movie, I could understand that clammy, sweaty, whatever. But for it being actually in text on the screen in the film, it's wrong. And I know we're kind of we're really nitpicking here, to be honest. But
wait, hang on a second. I'm not debating that Clammy Hands. It's definitely the right answer, Clammy Hands. I'm debating, was this the right call based on past situations where they have been flexible? So that is the issue, the call itself. Of course, Clammy Hands is the correct answer.
Yeah, I think it is the right call. I think it is the right call because I feel like if somebody had gone back and they gave it to him, then there would have been 10 billion screenshots taken from the film of it says Clammy Hands, it says Clammy Hands. So you kind of have to just, for that particular one, it had to be exactly the way it said. So I have no problem with them denying that answer.
It's a classic case of damned if you do and damned if you don't.
Exactly. I mean, all I'm saying is
it is.
If they're going to be to the letter in this fashion, then I think they need to be to the letter moving forward. You cannot let other things go if you're going to be this specific, this exact, even though the question did not say what was the exact quote that Ferris gave. It was just what was the key. It did not say to be as specific as to quote what was said in the film. But another issue that was presented here was the fact that Rotten Tomatoes had an eternity to think about their steal while Judge Riley reviewed this. So I think they should give their steal answer right away just in case the steal opportunity is presented, because they may have had 5 minutes to think about this particular scene. And that's not really fair because IGN, when they steal a question, they have to decide the answer within 5 to 15 seconds, or maybe less. So I think moving forward, they have to ask for the steal answer ahead of time just to make sure that there isn't an advantage in that sense. Frank, what are your thoughts on this other little issue that popped up?
Yeah, I think you raised an interesting point there. I think it would be nice that, just for argument's sake, let's just go ahead and let's hear your answer, and then we'll review it all together. Yes. And then I think that's fair to say. I think we could, once the judges or the announcers, Christian and Mark, if they're unsure, they go, well, let's hear what Rotten Tomatoes' answer would be, and then now we'll confer. And then also they could have just said no, and then let Rotten Tomatoes answer, and then IGN could have challenged. I mean, so there's a couple of ways this thing could have went down. I don't know if I agree with that. I guess it's weird or different because Christian and Ellis disagreed right there. So that kind of slows it down to begin with. So you're unconsciously giving Rotten Tomatoes some extra time there. It's an iffy situation.
Plus, I'm sure Gray and Matt were talking about it back and forth, conferring with each other while this is being reviewed. So they had a ton of time to figure this out. That's why Matt's answer was so long and so specific until he finally landed on Clammy Hands.
Well, it was Gray who finally. It was Gray,
yeah, exactly. So they both talked about it. You could tell for a while, since they had a while to talk about it. Now, Doman, What do you think about this other side issue that presents itself?
Going forward, that would be the best solution for an event where it's round 2 and it's a question that has to be under review and there's a steal opportunity. Well, get that answer now.
Right.
So that way, let's say, the person who they thought might have gone on, they're going to give it to them anyway, but it's just more logistics.
The one thing that came to my mind is they could institute this rule in the second round saying when it's not your turn, no matter what, you cannot confer while they're debating their question until they get it wrong. Once they get it wrong, then you can talk to each other. But before that point, you cannot talk to each other. You can only listen to what they're saying, what they're answering. And if they get it wrong, then you're allowed to talk to each other. And I think that might curb some of the allotted time that a team would get to steal. Do you know what I'm trying to say?
But they don't show that part of the match. They cut it all out. So we're taking their word for it that they wouldn't be conferring when it cuts to
why would that be a problem if we took their word for it? I mean, I understand.
I've got your fix. I have your fix right here. All right. Let's rewind to when the team decides that they're going to challenge the answer, or where there's a conferring where we have to get the judge involved. Then somebody from the crowd, or Cobster or Riley, or somebody from behind the scenes, how about they hand Rotten Tomatoes a whiteboard? And Christian says, this is going to be under review. You can write an answer. If there's a steal opportunity, you have 5 seconds to answer it. Go. Put the board face down. When the review comes back, whether it's right or wrong, then, all right, what's your answer?
I like that.
There you go. So there's no issue of conferring. It's already done. You don't have to recut it. It's right there. It's right there and done.
But now here's the real tough question though. Would we actually get to see that in the final product?
Yes, you would have to see it.
Okay.
Yeah, we would see the board once they come back from the break where the review has been decided.
And just for more security, they could even hand it to Christian or Mark or somebody, and they could hold it and say, "There's the answer."
Yeah, they can do this big reveal where they show the whiteboard answer to make it this big dramatic steal, the just-in-case steal that was written down.
There you go. There's your fix.
And it adds to theatrics.
Exactly. So, again, we just brainstorm a great solution that they'd be wise to use if they haven't initiated something already. But let's get to round 3. It's 22-20 IGN. 12-point round 2 for IGN, 7-point round 2 for Rotten Tomatoes. Those steals really affected, obviously, the trajectory of this match. But Rotten Tomatoes, their 2-pointer, one of my favorite films of all time, Oh Brother, Where Art Thou, tied the match up 22-22. It goes to IGN for their 2-pointer, Captain Blood, played by Errol Flynn. IGN goes up 24-22. Rotten Tomatoes gets their 3-pointer, Dalton's ally in Roadhouse, co-star of Tombstone, Virgil Earp, Sam Elliott himself. Rotten Tomatoes takes the lead 25-24. IGN then gets their 3-pointer. Andy gives the toys to Bonnie in Toy Story 3. IGN misses. They struggle with animation once again. IGN now needs to get their 5-pointer to stay in this match. Angelina Jolie is the category. The answer relates to Johnny Lee Miller in Hackers, 29-25. IGN with 4-point lead. Rotten Tomatoes gets their 5-pointer for the match point. Cats and Dogs, Jeff Goldblum, 30-29. Rotten Tomatoes takes it. And I didn't think that Rotten Tomatoes had this question at first, but Gray knew it from the jump. She had just watched this film, apparently, but it looked like she was holding back until it was decided officially. So, unbelievable finish to this match. It was a controversial match. It was an instant classic, though. Unbelievable stuff either way. Rotten Tomatoes continues to be one of my favorite teams, if not my favorite team, had they not taken a long break. Frank, talk to me about the drama of this ending.
This was a great ending to a match. I just love the fact that Gray could not believe she actually knew the answer to this question, that the answer to the question was Jeff Goldblum. She's laughing, and then she just couldn't help herself but say, it's stupid Jeff Goldblum. I know it because this movie was not the greatest for her, and it was a great ending. And it's, Drake came up huge with her 3-pointer, and Eric Goldman on the opposite side, unfortunately he couldn't get his question right. And once again, Atchity and Vejvoda went back and forth, each getting their 2-pointers. So just further fueling the hopefully inevitable Atchity-Vejvoda matchup in singles. Hopefully that happens. But for this match, it was great to see Rotten Tomatoes win. I didn't know what to expect given their previous performance against What the Flick. It wasn't very like them. And they came back in this match and showed everyone that just how good they are.
Yeah, I was about to say that the ever-present tease of Ashley versus Vejvoda can only just curb by building excitement with each passing moment, because those two need to duke it out in singles. But yeah, Drake, she picked up the question to a film that I'll admit it's still a guilty pleasure of mine from childhood. I thought seeing a movie with talking dogs that tried to fight that fought with ninjas and a Russian assassin, it was whatever. When I was a kid, it was the shit, and it was a lot of fun. But yeah, no, I'm glad that she picked it up, and I'm glad they got the win. And most importantly, despite the controversy, I'm glad this was just a great match. I'm just glad that even with a little bit of controversy, like I said, we're back to having just an instant classic of a team match. So I was actually pretty happy with the outcome.
If anyone remembers the now departed Rotten Tomatoes podcast, they'll know about some stories that Gray has told in regards to Jeff Goldblum. So clearly all this has come to a head in the Schmoedown to lead Rotten Tomatoes to victory. Aaron, give me your thoughts on the conclusion of this match and take us to the post-interview.
Are there any conspiracy theories that perhaps Eric Goldman was still feeling the effects of the neuralizer before the match? Maybe that was still around?
That's a fun bit.
I like that a lot. And who knew? Sorry, this is a complete side note. Who knew the Schmoedown now had special effects? Because I did not know that.
Well, I mentioned this last week, but they added a sound effect during the Double Toasted Real Rejects match when someone smacked their whiteboard against, I believe Corey smacked his whiteboard against Real Rejects, and they added a sound effect. So they are starting to do some more post-production. Deep Cuts, I should say, is starting to do a bit more effects in post-production.
Well, back to the match. I mean, I discussed this in the Facebook group earlier this week. Has Rotten Tomatoes had a bad match?
Well,
the What the Flick match wasn't great, but look at top 10. Look at that match. Look at this match.
Two classic matches in the new phase of the Schmoedown. They were in some great matches in phase 5, of course, but they're always an exciting team, no matter what.
The biggest takeaway for me was Gray. I was just happy as I could be for her, because we've seen her in the post-match interview. She's just been like, yeah, I let Matt do all the heavy lifting and I just kind of show up. Like, it's just that sort of thing. Of course, I'm paraphrasing, but it was awesome to see her get the victory for the team. I'm sure she was just happy as hell to do that. And it's a supportive team. You could tell that Rotten Tomatoes has a really good team dynamic. I really love this team. And my biggest takeaway once again was just I was tickled to death with Drake. I'm glad she got the W for the team.
For me, it reminded me of Double Toasted last week as Corey carried the ship until, I believe, was it Martin? Is that Martin, the other guy's name?
Yeah.
Yep.
Martin delivered the finishing move with that big question to seal it. So similar dynamics that we're seeing with Vejvoda and Goldman, Atchity and Gray, Martin and Corey. So you can be a great team and not have two powerhouse players. You can have one powerhouse player and have an average player and still be a great team. So I mean, we're giving Goldman a hard time. Yes, he's not as good as Vejvoda, but he's by no means, I'm not going to say he's a squeaky wheel quite yet. We don't have enough information on him to say he's a squeaky wheel. I think he's just good enough to keep IGN in most matches, if not victorious in most matches. I mean, is Matt Nost really that much better of a player? I don't think so. I think Goldman is much better than Nost.
Nost is better than Goldman.
We've got more tape. We have much more tape on Nost, in fairness.
Well, let's jump to the post-match interviews where all of a sudden, welcome back to Jen Sturger, back doing interviews. And
what a sight for sore eyes. What a sight for sore eyes.
Yeah, she's keeping her neutrality, so I appreciate that. Welcome back to her. And we found out something that I think a lot of us have been wanting for a long time, is that Matt Atchity finally is giving an indication that he may want to do some singles action. In the past, he had said, no, he's not really interested. He likes being on a team with Gray. But now it seems as if almost Gray actually talked him into it, and he's ready. He's ready for some singles. So, Frank, what do we think of this?
Oh, I can't wait. Can't wait. I think a lot of people have been talking about this for a long time. And given his past performances in teams this year alone, I think hopefully has convinced him, or I guess it has convinced him that, he can hang in the singles, and, he didn't have too bad of a time in the free-for-all. Yeah, I'm looking forward to whoever he plays. And whoever he plays, it is not going to be easy. Good thing for the league to have Matt Atchity in the singles.
He's never really shied away from singles. It was more of the fact that Rotten Tomatoes is not convenient to Collider Studios, and he's an awfully busy and powerful man. So I love the fact, though, that he's now going to play no matter what. He's not going to rely on any excuses. This guy can be a force in singles, and I love that this team league is now going to spawn what could potentially be another great singles rivalry. We need another great singles rivalry. And Atchity and Vejvoda, this could be the next Roca Riley, the next Merle and Roca. This could be the next big rivalry in this league, and they're both primed for singles play.
Now, Chris, before I get to you, something actually just popped in my brain to why another reason why this is a great idea. Matt Atchity, Rotten Tomatoes, that's a huge brand. And to have a singles player that is a part of that big brand. Now you've got Matt with Rotten Tomatoes. You've got Andy Signor with Screen Junkies. You've got, Christian and Mark and Campia with Collider. And you've got Jim Vejvoda with IGN. You've got all these big media entities that now have singles players. And now they have singles now. So it's just all this big integration of these big brands. I think that's kind of awesome. So, Chris, kind of give me your thoughts on what you think of Matt Atchity going to singles and how important this could be to the league.
Well, first off, it's long overdue. As long as I've been watching the Schmoedown and I've seen Rotten Tomatoes play, I've just been asking the same question. Why in the 7 circles of hell is Matt Atchity not in singles? The dude wrecks shop.
It's the same reason why Merle isn't playing in teams, though. I mean, they have a lot to do on the other side of town. So,
and I get that, and it's just unfortunate because, my God, the amount of new fans that I think that they could also bring to the Schmoedown through their own media outlets, and the amount of new competitors, like we could have more people from Rotten Tomatoes, we could have more people from IGN, more people from Screen Junkies playing it if it was just a little bit closer, which sadly it's not. But I just think this is a great opportunity for further expansion of this game that we all already love.
I'd like to see Dan Casey, the mayor, get more involved since he represents Nerdist. I mean, you got to have Nerdist involved in this league. It just makes sense when you consider all the powerhouse geek and nerd brands that are now involved in the Schmoedown.
Yes, another huge brand. Absolutely. And I think Chris made a good point there. If you can get them to have, you've got Andy in there. Look at all the people from Screen Junkies we could have. I know there's travel issues or placement issues and whatnot, but that just opens, the door is open now for more people from these big media outlets to come in. And that's awesome. That's what this whole thing is about, is getting players in here for more exposure through all those different brands. Everybody gets a little piece of the pie. So the more of these big brands you can get, the bigger this is going to get.
And what adds to the Atchity-Vejvoda rivalry is the fact that they were neighbors at a nondescript office building in San Pedro in the late 90s. So you can't ask for a better story than that. Frank, I wanted to ask you, is this the highest combined score in a team match yet? Obviously, I'm not counting Star Wars or anything like that. Just a straight up team match, 3 rounds. Where does this weigh in?
Yeah, this is the single highest scoring combined points in a match. 30 to 29, 59 points is now the highest. It overtakes the Patriots versus Trek, even though that was a 5-rounder. They had 55 points.
Wow.
Combined 20 to 27. And then if you want to count the Collider team up of Christian Harloff and John Roca when they battled Signor and Merle, they also had a score of 28 to 27 for 55 points. So yeah, Rotten Tomatoes, IGN, they are now kings of the highest scoring match in league history.
There are no losers in this match. Even though IGN lost, when you have a performance like this, you're really not losing. So Rotten Tomatoes was my favorite team, but then they went on hiatus for a while. Then the Patriots took over. Nerd Watch was born. But Rotten Tomatoes, if they play consistently, my heart will be conflicted between the Patriots and Nerds Watch.
So going back to Rotten Tomatoes, the team title picture is set right now. We've got the Nerds Watch taking on Heroes for a number 1 contendership, and we've got the Patriots versus top 10. So Rotten Tomatoes right now is kind of on the outside looking in. I don't know where you guys would place them. I would have them play, and I don't like a team on the rise to play a losing team, but I would like to see Rotten Tomatoes play the loser of either top 10 and Patriots. Whoever loses, I want to see them go against Rotten Tomatoes. And I'm not counting my chickens before they hatch, but if top 10 were to lose to the Patriots, I would be stoked to see top 10 versus Rotten Tomatoes once again, arguably the greatest team match we've ever had.
I really don't know what you can do with Rotten Tomatoes until after Collision, because you're going to have Nerds Watch and Heroes go at it. And then the week before that, really, you'll have the title match between Patriots and top 10. So they could play the loser of Heroes Nerds Watch, or they could play the loser of Patriots top 10. I think a lot will be determined how well certain teams play, perhaps. And then the wild card is what are we doing with the Schmoes, that team? We could see them, if they want to make a run at the title, they have that option, obviously, because right now they are ranked 4th in the league, and that could be mixed up coming out of Collision. Who knows? We'll have to wait and see. So Schmoes can also dictate a lot where Rotten Tomatoes could fall or who they could play, depending if Schmoes want to get back in the game.
Doman, what do you think they do with Rotten Tomatoes? Where would you put them?
To be honest, I would put them take on the loser of Patriots top 10.
Thank you for agreeing with me.
Number 1 contender match, obviously, then they take on the winner of said match then. But after that, if let's say I'm the commish, what I do then is I have, after winner of Nerds Watching Heroes takes on winner of top 10 and the Patriots, the loser has to then take on Rotten Tomatoes, and if Rotten Tomatoes can go for the belts, God bless them. I think they've earned a shot. I would say they've earned a shot already, but that's just not the logistics at the moment. So
it's getting awfully crowded in the top 5, top 6, even the top 7. Because top 10: Heroes, Rotten Tomatoes, Schmoes, Nerds Watch, Wolves of Steel, Trek. It's getting awfully crowded, and it's going to be really, really tough to figure out where these teams lie and who and when gets the title shot. It's going to be very tough.
Brian, before I get to you, I'm going to solve this problem. I'm going to solve another problem in this episode. Guess what's right around the corner, guys, that I think we're all forgetting? Ultimate Team Schmoedown. You may not have to do anything with Rotten Tomatoes. They can just sit right where they are. They don't need a title shot right now. They can go through the tournament and do all that good stuff. That's exciting. I just got really excited about that. But Brian, what would you do with Rotten Tomatoes? You think they should stay where they are and just wait for the tournament, or would you place them on a trajectory to get a title shot?
It's worth pointing out that they challenged Heroes in their post interview. So at the time of this recording, who knows what the situation was? But I just want to say that they did challenge them. Regardless, I don't know that they should jump ahead to play the loser of top 10 in Patriots. I would love to see that. Don't get me wrong. I would love to see Rotten Tomatoes play the loser of top 10 in Patriots. But I think Nerds Watch has a little bit of seniority just because they haven't had the amount of hiatuses or breaks in between plays. So I feel like Nerds Watch is more entitled to the loser of top 10 in Patriots than Rotten Tomatoes. So either way, Rotten Tomatoes will be in the right position. Whenever they're paired up next, they're in the right spot to succeed. I just don't know if I would push them ahead of Nerds Watch when Nerds Watch has been more consistent as far as showing up and being able to play. It's not Rotten Tomatoes' fault per se, but Nerds Watch has been more consistent as far as appearances go. So it's a good problem to have when you have so many great teams. Either way, I'm happy with whatever outcome we get.
Well, I just want to point out real quick that, I mean, Nerds Watch and Heroes are already going at it. That's already scheduled. So whoever wins that is the next number one contender. So you're not really technically jumping Nerds Watch if they win.
But I mean, Doman
suggested
that the loser of top 10 in Patriots should play Rotten Tomatoes, which would put Rotten Tomatoes ahead of Nerds Watch, which obviously Nerds Watch should get the chance to be the number one contender as per the design at Collision. So,
well, yeah,
Nerds Watch has that contender slot locked up. What you do with Tomatoes at that point, whatever it is, it's going to set them up properly. So this team is going to win the belts at some point. Mark my words. They will win the belt.
I would agree with that. Let's move on. Let's jump out of the team recap and let's jump into the singles recap this week. It was a special matchup, a celebrity match of sorts to promote the release of the film Black Butterfly. It was Jonathan Rhys-Meyers versus Brian Goodman. And it was quite the match. It was a lot of fun. Frank, take me through it. Take me through what happened, and let's get our roundabout thoughts on it.
Yeah, round one started kind of slow, but finished promising. It was 5-2. Jonathan Rhys-Meyers with a lead over Brian Goodman.
One thing to point out, Goodman cheated on the very first question. I don't know if we've seen that before.
Yeah, that was pretty funny. I kind of like it just because it's a fun match. It's an exhibition match. I thought it was pretty fun. I mean, it was like shades of Freddie Prinze Jr. for a second, and it was great that they caught it. Had they not caught it, that would have been interesting. But nonetheless, I mean, we know how the match turned out. So, anyways, getting into round two, Rhys-Meyers, he comes out of that still with the lead, 10-6, and then round three, Rhys-Meyers had to do a little work in the third round as Brian Goodman made a little bit of a run there. The final score was 15-13 between actor and director of the film Butterfly. So it was a fun match to watch, and I enjoyed it.
I was actually impressed with Jonathan because I kind of thought out of the two, like he might be the one that kind of came in just kind of like, yeah, this is kind of fun. But he actually looked like he was having a great time. He looked like he was super into it. And I thought that was kind of cool. I kind of fed off his energy a little bit. I had a great time with it. Doman, what did you think of this match?
I love Jonathan Rhys-Meyers as an actor. I thoroughly enjoy a lot of the work that he's done. And I'm glad that he and Brian Goodman both had a ball. I'm glad that they were able to have fun with the match. And I'm glad that not every single question was as easy as you might think. There were a couple of tough ones in there. And I'm glad that Skoliski was able to have a little bit of fun with this match, and obviously we did too. So yeah, no, I thoroughly dug this one. Seriously,
it's important to keep the fun because I mean, not every match has to be Roca, Merle, that high intensity kind of match. We need to have fun every once in a while, keep it loose. So Brian, what did you think of this one?
Yeah, let's not lose sight of what the purpose of these celebrity matches are meant to do. They're meant to grow the league. They're meant to bring in viewers and audiences that typically wouldn't hear about the Schmoedown. So, like I've said before, Dan Merle, he can appear another 5 times, but at this point, his audience has plateaued. They know about what we're doing over here at Collider. So, to get these outside celebrities in, to bring their social media followings in, to bring the studio's marketing in our direction helps this league grow. And Jonathan Rhys-Meyers, if you guys have not seen Woody Allen's Match Point 2005, ScarJo was in the midst of her career takeoff. She had just filmed Lost in Translation a couple years prior. This was what allowed ScarJo to get the role she gets today. And watch Match Point, though. Great film. And look, it was an enjoyable match to watch. Brian Goodman, you might know him as the other in Lost at the end of season 3. He had a date with Hurley in a Volkswagen bus. I'll leave it at that. But look, I'm not going to judge this match with the same lens that I would a typical league match. These matches are meant to be fun and entertaining, as Aaron has said, but they're meant to bring in outside viewers to grow this thing. We start with Jonathan Rhys-Meyers. Eventually, we build up to our version of Ryan Reynolds, to our version of Michael Bolton. Someday, we're going to remember these stepping stones, the building blocks that led to huge matches involving people like, I don't know, the sky is the limit. You never know, but this match will allow that to happen someday. So, good stuff. And I was stunned. One of the most impressive things I saw in this match, Brian Goodman answering Nick Cage as Big Daddy in Kick-Ass. That blew my mind that he got that right. And he said it was only based on the trailer. He never actually saw the film.
That's a good one. You're right.
Yeah, that was a great pull. And he also said that he didn't know that Robin Williams was the voice of the genie in Aladdin. So
that
two
was
amazing pulls right there. Wow. That was it was a lot of fun.
Jonathan Rhys-Meyers saying Dennis Villanueva. That did not sit well with me, but he knew the answer.
You were the first person I thought of, and I think that's just wrong at this point now.
I love how he said NASA, though. He said NASA. I love how he said NASA.
Yeah.
NASA. But entertaining stuff. Anyone have any other thoughts on the celebrity match? Grace referred to Goodman as an old friend, so maybe she's been on the same set as him before. I don't know.
You know what's really fun? Not just this show. We have other shows on the SK Plus channel. We have shows like The Outlaw Nation, the Harloff Podcast, The Wenger Show. All these great shows on SK Plus. And you should definitely check them out. Not only that, you should go to the Schmoedown iTunes feed and rate and review the channel. It helps us out. It helps us get on more lists so more people can listen to us. It all helps out the Schmoedown. We all help out each other. A rising tide raises all ships. So definitely check out the Schmoedown feed on iTunes and, of course, SK Plus, where you can find all of these great shows every single week. All right, guys, let's get into the preview action this week. It is the Night Sisters, Joelle Monique and Emma Fife, versus a new team, Deep Cuts, Thad Williams and Aaron Wilhelm. Chris Dillman, I'm actually going to start with you on this one. Who you got?
Well, okay. Unless dear old Aaron is Wilhelm screaming his way through this match.
I was going to say that!
Sorry, Brian.
Well played.
I honestly know nothing about these two gentlemen, so it could go either way. I know that unfortunately Night Sisters didn't have the best start in their first match. They didn't have, they got some bad luck with their Tom Hanks in round 2, but I got some hope. I got some hope that maybe they can pull one through, or if they don't, then maybe we'll see them on the road to a potential breakout match. But yeah, screw it. I'm rooting for the Night Sisters. Why not?
Well, Frank Janisch, you've actually met Thad once, so who do you have in this match?
Thanks for that. Yeah, ever so briefly. No, I'm going to go Night Sisters just because they have the experience playing the game. I know Thad and Aaron are behind the scenes a lot. And I'm also maybe guessing, I am guessing here, that they're so busy doing what they do that they have hardly any time to watch movies or to retain knowledge. So I'm going to use that as my basis for picking the Night Sisters because Emma and Joelle, they watch movies all the time and they talk about it all the time. So that's the only logic I could come up with, and that's why I'm going to go with Night Sisters.
Sound logic. Brian, please tell these two guys why they're wrong, and who do you have in this match?
Well, I still wish Thad and Aaron had gone with the name Cold Cuts, since that would allow for some great Ellis dad jokes, such as the cold cuts are heating up. I often side with rookies in team matches like this one, especially when deep cuts have been involved behind the scenes for a while. And not just for the Schmoedown, but all the shows. So when your job is to sit in that office day in and day out and essentially listen to everything that goes on and is said, you're bound to soak up information, whether it's movie talk, Jedi Council, you name it. So the deep cuts will be sizzling as we sail into summer. You heard it here first. Deep cuts will win.
Will they be a better version of Voico, what we thought he was going to be? Because he was there all the time, and he hasn't really panned out.
Hey, I'm not focused on the future. I'm just focused on the present, the spectacular now. Deep cuts will win this match.
I would say that prediction was well done. I actually am going to take... Yep. I'm actually going to take deep cuts as well. I think that while Joelle and Emma seem to be a cohesive team, they played okay against Team Action, but I really think that Thad and Aaron could do some real damage in this league, and I think they will win. So I'll just leave it at that. I'll keep it short and sweet. So let's jump out of team previews. Let's get to the fan integration part of the show. Let's talk some Facebook questions. I put out the call to arms last week, and I didn't get to all the questions. I've still got a few banked, so let's go through some right now. Let's get your thoughts on things. Well, actually, let's get your questions to get our thoughts. Yeah, it works out that way. First one comes from Aaron Degliamini, and I apologize if I've said that wrong. Who will hold the singles belt on January 1st, 2018? Brian Davids.
My safe pick would be Dan Murrell. My dark horse pick, Sam Levine.
Frank Janisch.
John Roca, end of story.
Okay. Okay. Chris Doman.
See, again, safe pick is Dan Murrell. I can't believe I'm going to say this. Because even though I just laughed at him for it, there's every possibility it could actually be John Roca.
Well, since John Cena, I don't think is an option, which would be the number one choice that I would take, I'm going to take somebody that nobody has said. I think it is the year of this man. I'm going the Snyder. Jeff Snyder will be the champion on January 1st, 2018. Take to the bank, Frank Janisch, you chucklehead. All right, next question comes from Kristen Smith, who asks, any contestants who haven't played in a long time that you want to see come back? Frank?
I'm sorry, I need to hear that question at least 16 more times.
I will be sure to loop it in the podcast version.
Thank you. Contestants who haven't played in a long time. Well, that's a good question. It's a good question. And I think you'll have to circle back to me.
Okay, fantastic. Brian Davids.
Well, I would have complained about Rotten Tomatoes and IGN because it feels like forever since they last played. And, Rotten Tomatoes hadn't played in a long time before their last match against What the Flick. But, Ellis is another name that you want to see back. But for me, I want to see Sam Witwer come back to the studio for a proper match with buzzers. So that is the one person I am longing for the most. And I kind of went through all the matches in the Collider phase. And for the most part, we've gotten everyone back. The most significant people, at least, we've gotten everyone back within a recent time frame. So I don't know. Sam Witwer is the best answer I've got outside of Rotten Tomatoes, IGN, and Ellis, who we now know is coming back. So that's it.
All right, Doman, what do you think?
Well, if we're talking for just pure cannon fodder, let's get John Schnepp back in there. But
he just played.
Well, I'm talking singles. Okay, so it depends. If I wanted strictly singles cannon fodder, I'd say maybe John Schnepp. But in all seriousness, someone I honestly want to see, and Brian, I as a longtime fan of this woman, I think you would approve of my decision, and that be in the SPR experience, Sasha Pearl Raver. Seriously, I miss her personality. I think she would be great, and plus, doesn't she still owe Finstock / Tom Dagnino a match? Come on.
Probably.
Let's cash that in. Huh?
I like that you use the nickname that I trademarked.
Well, to be fair, when you were on another show, I did listen every single week, and I did hear you drop it almost every single week. So
Yeah.
it kind of stuck in my head. So
It was immortalized on the actual Schmoes Know show to her as well. So I mean, my influence rubs off.
But I'm glad that you brought up Finstock, because that is somebody that we haven't seen in a while that I want to see. I'm not talking about Tom Dagnino. You've seen Tom. I'm talking about Finstock. I'm not talking about Finn Draco.
Good answer.
I'm talking about Finstock.
best answer.
I want to see Robert Finstock back into the Schmoedown. I love the guy. He's my favorite character. It's been too long. Never get rid of Finstock again. Frank, do you have an answer yet?
Yeah, it's. I guess you could say it's kind of recent, but
Kale
It's also Finstock.
Kale Anonymous.
it's no, I'm actually not. I mean, I've seen other people say they want to see him back, and that'd be
Kara
fine.
Warner.
But
Alicia Malone.
Umberto.
I'm gonna look at. I want to say RB3. We got one taste of RB3, and it was a few months ago now. So I guess I would like to see more RB3.
He should have won that match too.
Robert Butler, the third friend of the show. The next question comes from Patrick Tyler Ravita. What is your favorite entrance? Frank Janisch.
My favorite entrance is the very first one the Beast had.
Okay.
And it's only because it was our very first introduction to him, and he went like 1,000% committed to that. And from that point on, I was like, I love this guy. He knows what it's about. He wants to be a part of this. He's 100% invested, and it's great. It's great as a first entrance. I don't know if anybody's had this since the Collider, since it started at Collider.
Yeah, he went hard, that's for sure. What about you, Brian? What's your favorite entrance?
The first thing that comes to mind is the match between Nerds Watch and Tough Beats. It was Nerds Watch's debut, and they did some different camera work for those entrances. It made Nerds Watch's entrance kind of look like the beginning of a Kentucky Derby, essentially, where they show the competitors behind the curtain before they came out, and it just gave a different perspective to these entrances. And then Tough Beats, that's the match where they had this big, long, involved entrance where we went behind the stage, and they did this whole production. They were shaking hands and holding babies and whatnot. And I kind of wish that they made more use of that little alleyway behind the stage, maybe put up some curtains and just make it a bit more of a walkout from behind the stage, just make it a bit more of a presentation. So yeah, that is my favorite match of entrances. It's also the first thing that came to mind. And I wish they would just get a bit more bold like they did in that match as far as entrances.
The best entrances are the most simple, but that's not my favorite. Even though even this one is still so fresh in my mind, I can just tell though it's going to be there for an awfully long time. And that is when the Real Rejects came out against Double Toasted, and literally Corey grabbed his whiteboard and smacked. I think it was John Humphrey. Oh my God, it was a beautiful moment
with the sound effect.
And I don't know if it'll ever be replicated because it's the moment that actually made the Schmoedown feel like professional wrestling.
For a little bit, you're right. Yeah, for a little bit.
Right. And Copster 3, they brought out the toast. They brought out the actual toast, and they were poking holes through the toast or something. So on both sides, it was interesting.
Exactly. So yeah,
because they're part of the stable with Real Rejects, or they were part of the stable. Now it's just RB3, Real Rejects, and Hector supposedly.
I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't mention Team 6 Degrees and their constant entertaining entrances, but my standout entrance was actually against them, and that was the I crack up even thinking about it, and it's the Wolves of Steel.
I love that. You always mention this.
Oh my God, it's so good because the reason why it's so great is because not only is it a fun entrance, it's Christian and Mark or whoever's on commentary in the background saying like that Mark or Riley looks like Fred from Scooby-Doo, and just the different like, oh God, I love it so much. I'm glad that Brienne was not injured as the table did run into her legs, and I have confirmed that she has not been injured. But that one always gets a laugh out of me because it was a nice misdirect. I think some people thought it might have been Riley in the mask, and then, oh God, I don't know. I just love it. That one gets a good laugh out of me every single time.
Riley looked like a deranged Zach Morris. That's what my first indication was.
I got a honorable mention. It's the Harloff versus Cody match in 2014, where Harloff basically just kills everybody as Darth Harloff. That's my honorable mention.
That was
a pretty awesome one.
Deep cut.
Deep cut.
Cold
there
cut.
it is. There
Cold cut or deep cut?
Yeah.
It's cold and deep.
And just for the record, I believe Christian said during that entrance that Mark Riley looked like a deranged librarian, I think was another great line from the commissioner. And speaking of that commissioner, our last question comes from Christian Harloff, who asks, who are your next guests? Who are your dream guests? Brian, you have something to say about this?
Well, yeah, you brought up the subject of dream guests, or Christian brought up the subject of dream guests, and I'm going to go ahead and make an announcement right now. I will be interviewing a particular person on behalf of the Schmoedown Rundown. That person is Ken Knapsack. Ken and I have been talking about doing this since the early days of the after show, and it just hasn't come together for a variety of reasons, including a feud over the pronunciation of Gal Gadot's name. However, cooler heads have since prevailed, and we'll be talking soon about the Schmoedown as well as his new show on Facebook Live. However, this will mostly be a general interview where I explore the pride of Pismo's soul, mind, and spirit. Of course, that's Mr. Ken Knapsack. So look forward to that. It's just the two of us, hour plus. Gonna be great. Gonna be great.
Of course, people I'd want to have on the show. Rachel Cushing is at the top of my list. I would love to have her on. I'd love to talk to her. Riley, I mean, of all the people that we talked to, it's kind of weird that we haven't got Riley. Well, we will eventually, so no worries about that. Makuga is another person I want to talk to. I would love to talk to Clark again. Love to talk to Bibiani again, as he wants to beat the record of John Roca for most appearances. Outside that, I would actually like to talk to Jen Sturger. I'd like to talk to Grace Hancock. I'd like to talk to I kind of want to talk to people that aren't...
to everyone.
Well, I mean, it's just...
There's a whole plethora, and I can't blame you for wanting to get them all on. It's just, making it happen.
I just don't want to go the norm. I don't want to go the norm. I don't want to just talk with all right, well, let's talk with Christian this week. Let's talk with Mark this week, which is great. I love talking to those guys, but I want to talk to other people that you wouldn't normally maybe hear on
Scott freaking Mance.
Scott Mance, yeah.
Scott Mance has been at the top of my list since we started this show, but it's so hard to get that guy. That guy's always working. But basically anybody that's not been on the show that I really enjoy, I want on the show. So if you are involved with the Schmoedown, I will probably send you a DM. Please don't ignore it.
Yeah, we also don't want to repeat the same guests. If other shows are having the same person on in consecutive weeks, we kind of want to mix it up a bit. We don't want to give you the same people all in a row. We like to keep some variety. So we're going to get to certain people eventually, but we don't want to give you 3 weeks of the same person on this channel. So we have that in mind as well.
Yeah, we don't want it to seem like Radio Row, where everybody's making the rounds to the different shows.
Oh my God, isn't that the worst when the same guest is on like 4 of your favorite podcasts in the same week?
It's the worst. Yeah, it's the worst. But all right, guys, that's going to do it. We appreciate all the questions. And as I said, I will keep banking them, so we'll have more next week. Appreciate it. Keep sending them in. If you want to hit us up on Twitter at SD Rundown, we will pull some from Twitter as well. But that's going to do it for this episode. My name is Aaron. You can find me on Twitter at ATTitanium. Our guest, our good friend of the show, Chris Doman. Where can you be found, sir? What you got going on?
You guys can find me on Twitter at my band Last Shot Redemption at LSAR Band MN. You can also find my YouTube channel, Take 3 Productions, on YouTube at Fan Schmoedown. A couple quick announcements. Like I said at the top of the show, with Brett Sheridan, that match will be out next week. His debut against Zach Mitchell, followed by a Schmoeville doubleheader with 4 of the Schmoeville Facebook page admins. It's going to be a hell of a time, I can promise you that. And then, of course, our title match. Then over the course of the summer, we have the Ultimate Fan Schmoedown Tournament, which our host Aaron Turner will be participating in a wild card match to get in the actual tournament. So, Aaron, thanks for having me on again, man. I really appreciate it, and best of luck in your wild card match, man.
No problem. I appreciate the invite to compete once again in the Fan Movie Trivia Schmoedown, and I look forward to beating everyone's ass in it. So that sounds fantastic to me. Corey Brown, I didn't forget. Frank Janisch of Schmoedown.com, friend of the show, mutual Twitter follower. Where can you be found, sir?
You can find me on Twitter at FrankieJ29. You can check out my Instagram, too, at the same name, if you like. Again, Schmoedown.com. Yes, there's a weekly recap article that I do. Comes out Sunday or Monday. Yeah. You can look out for that recap article. I post a lot of ranking stats and match recaps.
Fantastic. Brian Davids, my good buddy, my guy that thinks that he is the biggest fan of Yvonne Straharsky in the group, and it's not true, but where can you be found, sir?
Well, at least I know how to pronounce her name, but...
I know, I'll cut it out.
No, you got to keep that. You guys can find more of me, Brian Davids, on Twitter at BDF331. Check out my TV film podcast at filmschlubspodcast.com or wherever podcasts are found. Special thanks to Clint LaJeunesse at Floyd Pinkster, Shane Bowman at HeisenbergChronicles.com, Jonathan Voitko, and Ray Ora for all their help with artwork this week. And I've got an interview with Leftovers co-creator Tom Parada dropping this weekend on Film Schlubs, so check that out.
Sounds great. And of course, once again, follow the show at SD Rundown. We will be back on SK Plus next Saturday. Until then, we'll see you.